You don't always think about the weird jobs that exist out there, but today we're going to talk about a book where the main character takes a job that I was just like, why on earth would you ever do this? Especially after what you experienced. That book is Bat Eater and Other Names for Cora Zeng by Kylie Lee Baker. So the whole premise of the story is there are two sisters, Delilah and Cora, and unfortunately, beginning of the book, Cora witnesses her sister being pushed in front of a train and she dies a very gruesome death. The guy who pushed her screamed Bat Eater before he pushed her, so she has experienced this insane trauma. She doesn't remember what the guy looked like. She just knows it was a white guy, and she remembers his hands and veins, and she didn't really get a good look at his face. This was right in the time of when COVID first hit, so everyone's wearing a mask. So she just saw eyes. It was all in a flash and it happened really quickly. And so you fast forward a little bit. And so Cora now has become a crime scene cleaner. I don't know why on earth you would decide to do that after seeing your sister killed like that, but that's what she ends up doing. She works with these two other people, Harvey, whose uncle owns a dry cleaning business, but he also does crime scene cleanup as well. So it's kind of like they have the dry cleaning and then also that. And there's also another person that works with her named Ife. And so they all kind of have their like weird idiosyncrasies and like kind of strange backgrounds from what they came from and what happened to them and just why they kind of fell into their careers. And you kind of get into that as the story goes on. Like Harvey had, he doesn't really explain it a whole lot, but he spent a lot of his life in a basement that was wet and damp. I don't think he was allowed upstairs. There was something with his dad. I'm not sure if his dad was just violent or whatever, or just a POS, but he was down there and he just kind of grew up and watched a lot of horror, played a lot of video games, and so when he sees gore and stuff like that, it doesn't really he sometimes kind of sees it as just like video games and horror. He doesn't really associate it with reality, or somehow he's able to disassociate it. And maybe same thing with Cora. Maybe it's just like she likes cleaning. She somehow is able to disassociate and clean up gross entrails and blood and all sorts of gross things. Yufei also has an interesting background as well. So all three of them, they do this job, they wear their hazmat suits. As you come into the scenes and they're doing these different jobs, over time, they keep finding that these Asian women have been murdered and they're finding, like, in the crime scene, these bats at each one. And they're like, okay, this seems like there is a serial killer. Now, also, Cora, so now that her sister is gone, she doesn't really have a whole lot of people in her life. She doesn't have any friends. She has her aunt Zeng, and then she has her aunt Lois. Her mom was a different mom from Delilah's. They had the same dad. Cora's mom was white. And Cora's mom like joined a cult and is growing kale on some weird commune. So she doesn't really talk to her mom either. But her auntie Zeng warns her when she goes to visit her. She's like, do you need any joss paper to burn because the Hungry Ghosts Festival is coming up and you don't want to attract any of those ghosts to you, this, that, and the other. And she kind of blows it off because she doesn't really believe in it. But then weird stuff starts happening in her apartment. Like she thought she had two apples, one of them's missing. And it slowly escalates where like there are bite marks in her coffee table. And she's like, what the F? Like human bite marks. And then eventually she sees a hungry ghost. That hungry ghost is her sister. And the hungry ghost seems to be kind of like nudging her in the direction of who this serial killer could possibly be. Because there's another murder that happens, and it was this police officer, this Officer Wang, and underneath the bed, the hungry ghost like shows Cora that there's a thumb drive. So Cora takes the thumb drive from the crime scene and whatnot. Cora and the other two people she works for are trying to kind of maybe figure out who is doing this. And so they start digging, and then they're like, okay, maybe we should go to the press because they're keeping this hush hush. No one's heard anything. And like, it's kind of obvious at this point that there is a lot of these women that have been murdered, and it's all similar. There's always these bats at the crime scene that have their wings destroyed, like the murderer's calling card and whatnot. And then the Officer Wang, he was killed. And so what's on that thumb drive? it seems like he was probably trying to figure out like who's behind the serial murders, and it's like, okay, so now is are the cops involved? Are they trying to cover up stuff too? Like, who's pulling the strings and whatnot? But then the ghost that was or is her sister is starting to like freak her out a bit, and she's afraid it's going to attack her. And then she starts seeing other ghosts because her and Harvey they like did something to try and get rid of the ghost, and it just drew more to them. So stuff is starting to escalate. So it's the whole story of trying to find out who the serial killer is of her sister. It's during COVID. You also see a lot of just the blatant racism that people had when this happened due to political stuff and just people being horrible humans. It's sad, it's emotional, it's gruesome, it's weird, it's written in a way that just pulls you into the story. This is the first time I've read this author. Really enjoyed it. Immediately pulled in because, well, crap hits the fan as soon as you step into the book, pretty much. I mean, you know what's coming because that's the whole premise of the book about the sister and whatnot. So you have that. And when they start digging into these crimes, is that going to bring the attention of the serial killer towards them? And do they have to now worry? And so you got that. You got the Hungry Ghost. It's a crazy story. Would recommend if you are a fan of horror. And if you enjoyed hanging out today, hit that subscribe button, come back, see me again, and we'll talk about more bookish things and weird stuff.